The following video will describe the installation of the FlexGuard barrier in the Ford Escape 2013 and newer model year vehicles. Before we perform the installation, we've laid out all the components that come in your FlexGuard kit, and we'll walk through them. You have your main FlexGuard barrier, the screen with the frame around it. You have your cross stabilizer piece that is used in both the B and the C pillar position. You have your two seat bolt mounting brackets. You have 8 star bolts that are used for the installation. You have 2 J brackets that are used in the B pillar position, and when they're not used, they get stored in the spare tire compartment. You have 4 small bolts that come with the kit with washers and nuts. Your 7mm is used to bolt the shoulder harness seatbelt guide onto your 2 seatbelt top brackets. And then you have your glove compartment kit that you must leave in the glove compartment for the driver to use. It is also where you will store your Torx head screws that will be removed from your seatbelt guide brackets and replaced. And one thing I want to point out on the seatbelt top bracket, as you can see, the slot in between, this is where your seat top bracket installs on the steel on the back of the seat, and we will describe the installation. Next, we want to talk about the tools that will be used in the installation of the FlexGuard. We'll walk you through the tools.
We need a 7mm socket, an 11mm socket, and an 18mm deep well socket, along with either a 1/2 inch or 3/8 setup. Crescent wrench will be required, or a 7mm wrench for the backside of the small hardware, a T15 bit screwdriver, a fiber stick, a marking tool, along with a straight edge or a ruler so you can measure. We've also got either a razor knife or a hacksaw for cutting out.
And the drill. And just to point out that the razor knife can be used to cut out the fiberboard that goes over your spare tire, but a hacksaw really works quickly, although the razor knife will do the job. So the very first step is going to be removing the shoulder harness or seatbelt guides that go on the top of the back seat, and you'll want to remove them on both sides using your T15 to remove the 2 screws. It helps in the removal process to go ahead and release the seat back and slide it forward, and you can use your knee just to hold the seat in place while you remove the 2 Torx screws. Once you've removed all 4 screws, those screws need to be put in the glove compartment bag so that the driver can use those screws in the future if he decides he's going to take the FlexGuard out of the vehicle and put the shoulder harness guides back in place. The next step in the process will be to mount the shoulder harness seatbelt strap guide onto the seatbelt top bracket, and it mounts as shown in the video. Actually, the seatbelt guide actually goes in reverse and backwards compared to what it was installed on the top of the seat. And you use your 2 7mm bolts, nuts, and 4 washers. It's important to note that the screws go from the bottom up. So when you put the seatbelt top bracket on the seat, your bolts will be pointing up and they will not tear the fabric on the top of the seat. Using your crescent wrench or 7mm wrench and your drill with the 7mm socket, you can then snug the bolts so that your seatbelt guide is tightened and fixed to the seatbelt top bracket. The next step in the process will be to mount the seatbelt top brackets. As you can see in the video, you have steel on top of the seat, and the slot in the seatbelt top bracket is going to go over the steel, and then your bolt's going to crimp down on the steel to hold it in place. So go ahead and slide your seatbelt top bracket in place. It should slide right on, and then put your bolt in place. Once your bolt's in place, you can go ahead and snug down your bolt using a 7/16 or 11mm socket. Go ahead and perform the same seatbelt top bracket installation on the driver's side once you've completed the passenger side. We're now going to mount the seat bolt brackets. In order to do that, we have to remove a few things from the vehicle. We have to remove the spare tire cover and the styrofoam that's underneath. And then to remove the styrofoam, you're going to have to remove the trees. So use your fiber stick to remove the trees, and then remove your styrofoam so we can get to the seat bolts. Using your 18mm deep well socket on either a 1/2 inch or a 3/8 drive with a 12-inch extension, remove both nuts from the seat bolt. Next, slide your seat bolt brackets in place, ensuring that your seat bolt bracket is configured and oriented as shown in the video, with most of the material going to the outside of the vehicle. Slide your 18mm nuts over and tighten to 80 foot-pounds. Perform the same installation on the driver's side with the seatbelt bracket. In this particular video, you see that there's an amplifier back here. Most of the installs that you do, there will be no amplifier. However, the amplifier does not get in the way of your installation. Your next step is going to be to cut out the slots in your foam, which will allow the foam to be put back in position. So put your foam up against the brackets, mark it, and then pull it out and notch your foam out. Do that on both sides. Next, we're going to cut out the slots for your brackets to clear your spare tire cover. Measure over 18 inches from the center and 2 inches in from the end. Use your marking pin to mark it. And you can use your good utility knife or the hacksaw. The hacksaw will go through it obviously much quicker to cut out your slots. After you've cut your notches out, go ahead and slide your cover back in. As you can see, it clears and fits back in nicely. The next step is going to be to install your crossbar that the FlexGuard barrier actually mounts on. If you'll notice in the picture on the passenger side, you have a red number 1. On the driver's side, you have a blue number 1. And that is the position that they must go in. So you put your passenger side in first, and then slide the driver's side in, and then snug those up. After you have your crossbar in place, you could go ahead and put your 2 star knobs in where your barrier is going to sit. And then slide your barrier in. Now you're ready to put your barrier in place. So slide your barrier slots right over the 2 star knob bolts. And then snug up your bolts. Your next step in the process is going to be mounting the 2 J brackets which hold the barrier securely in place. Again, note you have a red number 3 and a blue number 3. The red goes on the passenger side and the blue goes on the starboard side or driver's side. Mount the J brackets to slide the front slot over the star bolt and then slide in the back slot on the seat bolt bracket and snug in place. You will note that once you have the J brackets in place, it pulls the barrier slightly back, which allows the driver to put his seat back further. Finish up the same process on the passenger side. Slide your J brackets in place and snug your star bolts. You now have a completely installed FlexGuard barrier system for the 2013 newer Ford Escape in the B-pillar position. You will want to look at the 2 additional videos on our website, which will show you how to move the barrier from the B to the C pillar position and from the C to the B pillar position.